Let's take a risk.
Yes.
It looks like.
Just a second. I think it will be better after the shear. Hmm? What? Yeah, less now. I want to be focused on the shear and and to see that everything will work, and then after the shear, I'll have more time. Be'ez Hashem. Yes.
I sent it to you? Ah. You also said,
okay.
How do I
Be'ez Hashem. Hmm? Wow. Okay, so hold on.
Only 9%. Still, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. How much? 1,200?
How many shear total on is 315? Over 300. I already did a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just ask them to get back to anytime. Tell them, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Be'ez Hashem.
Okay. Just gonna get this.
Amen.
And if you could get the title right away, just say it a little bit slower.
Okay.
So, also, it's got you wrote the title in the email. You said Rama Magipa. It's really Rama Makas. That was.
So I translated
Magipa
okay.
Is a plague. There's two different types of plague, but why plagues? This plague is Makas. Magipa is also correct.
Okay. So I translate wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard for me to type it in, but just say it's
Okay. Okay. All right, Hashem. Be'ez Hashem. Thank you very much.
You can. If you have other people on there, you don't have to. Is that the one for me? If I think, but I think just send this. Oh, this one. I'm going to myself. Okay. Yes, I'm searching for it very, very. Trying to find some rain. Oh. That's all. I don't know.
I was diverse in certain rotten terrain. They didn't do anything.
Okay, so everyone. There, Shabbat. Beautiful rainy day here in Yerushalayim. This week is Parsha Shiur, Shabbat Shiur. Shabbat is special joy, commemorating the miracles at Yam Suf and the salvation of the Jewish people. However, the Torah has to be seen in all of its nuances. One of the nuances of the Torah that Chazal point out to us is that when it says the word Vayehi as the introductory word to the topic, there's a negative connotation. Ein Vayehi Elavotram Tzara, the trouble to have. The Haya, if the introductory word is Vahaya, so then it's a lashon of optimism and of goodness and blessing. So our parsha somehow begins with the word Vayi. Vayi v'shalach harav. If we're talking about the parsha that commemorates the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt and the splitting of the Red Sea and the fact that the moon begins to fall, and it's the beginning of the national history of the Jewish people. Why does it begin by He? Why does it begin with a negative, pessimistic, worrisome introduction? So we see that from the Parsha itself. First, Tosik in the Parsha tells us a great deal. Vayi v'shalach Pharaoh as all. Pharaoh sent the Jewish people out. Pharaoh sent them out. God took them out. Moshe took them out. But the Jewish people believe, or vast amounts of them believe, that Pharaoh is the one that let them out. They ascribed their freedom to the change of heart of Pharaoh. But that's negative. That's seeing facts, but not seeing the picture. Pharaoh didn't send them out. The Shalom sent them out. But they misread it. Because they misread it, they're constantly in danger of Nitno Rosh Hashuva Mitzrayim. Pharaoh changes his mind again. And we have to go back. There's nothing permanent there. So as long as we're dependent upon the will of Pharaoh, upon his vision as to what is going on, so we're not really free. We are not really Am Chofshi B'Artzeinu. We see that over the past 80 years. As long as we are subject to the kindness of Biden, or to the fact that somehow the International Court of Justice will not condemn us severely, then we're not really free. We're not really independent. We're not an Am Chofshi. So that nuance is something the Torah wanted us to appreciate. And the Jewish people will have to get to a level that the entire generation of Mitzrayim will die. Will no longer be there. There'll be no memories of Mitzrayim itself. Then they can go in there to Israel and become an independent people. But as long as they remember Mitzrayim, as we will see throughout the Chumash, we remember the good food we had in Egypt. They're not free. Pharaoh is the one that sends them, and therefore Pharaoh is the one that can bring them back. So that's one of the nuances that it gives in the Parsha. That's one of the reasons why the Parsha begins by Yehi. Begins Lashon Tzorah. The fact that the exodus from Egypt, so to speak, is not complete. There's a second nuance in the Parsha. There are many of them, but there's a second one in this series. Chazal tell us, Arba Kitos Alayam. There were 4 different groupings of the Jewish people by Yam Suf. Coming out of Egypt, they were not yet unified as one people. Because the only unity of the Jewish people lies in Torah, Naaser and Ishmael. So then it's Ki Shachot V'Lei Echad. And it's people with the same heart, with the same agenda, the same view of things. That's what Torah gives us. But without Torah, and here we're talking before Torah, before Matan Torah. So there are natural divisions in the people as to how to view the situation. There are those that say we should make war, and those that say we should go back to Egypt. Say we should make enough noise that the world will save us. So Moshe has to say to them, Asher yilochem lochem ve'atem tacharishu. The Lord will have to wage your battle because you're divided. You have all of these different opinions, different agendas, different beliefs. So atem tacharishu. So you should keep quiet because there's no unity amongst you. One of the diseases that we suffer here in Eretz Yisrael is that no one can keep quiet. And especially now that you have 24/7 news, and you have to fill up all of this time with nonsense, so everybody has to say something. And after a while, if you have to say something, you will say something banal and stupid, and eventually very counterproductive. And because of that, therefore, there's no unity amongst the Jewish people. Split into groups. When you split into groups, you cannot succeed. The only way you can succeed is miraculous. That's what it means. Hashem yilochem lochem. I have to perform a miracle. Because I'll teach us that heaven is loath to perform miracles. Oh, give me no way. The world has an order, and we don't want to disturb the order. We don't want to always deal with exceptional events. But sometimes the situation is such that without the exceptional event, without the miracle, that chas v'sholom, we won't survive. So that's what Yam Suf was. But the miracle only papers over the divisions in the people. It does not have a lasting effect. In fact, the more miraculous and the more often miracles occur than people expected. The miracles become nature. And they no longer recognize them being miraculous. They lose their effect. It's proven now that, for instance, all of the COVID vaccines have a very limited life. So we thought that we had a miracle, right? We had when the first one came out, they advertised that take one and you're safe the rest of your life. And communicate it to others. It's great. But it turned out that that was not true. It has a limited shelf life. Then you revert back to your own natural immunity. So that's what had happened at Yam Suf. And this great miracle by Yamim Hashem of Moshe Avdo. And they said, Zekeli Mameu, they pointed with their finger. They could see God, so to speak. The Gemara says, Roasa Shivcha Bayom, Mashal Roa Chesko Bembuzi. The lowliest maidservant that Yam Suf saw greater miracles, saw heaven more clearly than the great prophet Yechezkel. But the miracles of Yam Suf didn't last. The words of Yechezkel did. So we are prone to the seduction of miracles. And when miracles occur, since we are so susceptible to them, we hardly recognize them. And that's what Chazal meant when they said, Ein balanes makir b'nisa. People whose miracles occur don't realize it. Because we treat everything as nature, natural. We look on the opinion page to see what the experts have to say about it. How do you explain it? So that's the second nuance of why it says Vayehi. That with the miracle, there are divided people. With the miracle, they don't recognize it. The miracle will only have a very short shelf life with the Jewish people. And the third incident in the Parsha, that has to do with the Mon. The Mon is a strange thing. The Torah itself says it's called Mon because Monhu. We don't know what is this. Now, the Lord wanted to sustain the Jewish people. He could. We're going to see that they want to have meat. So flocks of quail descend and they have meat. They had solar bokor. They had sheep and cattle. They're going to have a porterhouse steak every night. So what's the deal with the Mon? So the Torah itself explains the Mon to us later in Chumash Dvarim. That the Mon came to teach us that life is sustained not by what we think it's sustained by, not by bread or food. It's sustained by the soul that the Lord infused within us, that gives us energy and imagination and abilities, and that gives us life. And when that soul no longer is able to do so, then there's no amount of food in the world that's going to help the body anymore. If food was the answer, then keep on eating. It's the Motza Pi Hashem, it's the spirit that's within us that sustains us. But the Mon came with restrictions. All the gifts that are given to us are given with restrictions. Shabbos has restrictions. Restrictions. Living in Eretz Yisrael has restrictions. We say that the Rebbeinu Shalom Rabbi loves us unconditionally, but every time there are conditions. Not conditions for his love, so to speak, but conditions for those who receive his love. How to exploit it correctly, how to deal with it. The moon falls every day, except Shabbat. So it tells us that on Shabbat, people went out to pick up the moon, even though Moshe told them, Ayom Lom Timso, there's no moon today. Shabbat is not Friday. People don't believe it. I want to tell you that it's unbelievable that this food falls from heaven. It has miraculous qualities to it. It produces no waste. It tastes like whatever you want it to taste like. The old bad joke about what coffee the Jewish people drank in the desert was taster's choice. It has all of these miraculous qualities. And if you don't have any appetite that day, so then it's something a bit bush. So then, like you're eating tailor, you're eating things dipped in honey. And yet people go out on Shabbos to collect it, even though it won't be there. Because they think that the one is not miraculous. The one itself is nature. A long time ago, I read an article that certain scientists submitted a paper in which he described the mon as being a type of coriander seed that somehow existed and then blew into the desert, etc. Person will go to such a far-fetched idea. You're a scientist, you want to deal with nature. Has there ever been such a thing? But it's easier to say that than to say that the moon falls from heaven and that it has restrictions to it. And the moon teaches us so many great lessons. You can't store it up. We're not accustomed to that. We have to have a freezer full of food too. Maybe somebody will come to visit. A good friend of in America who's in the grocery supermarket, you know, the Ronnie Levy business. He says part of the trick is that you're always fully stocked. You walk into the big supermarket, there are the oranges over the top. No matter how many people are buying oranges, they fill it up again. I said, why? He says, because that's what induces people. They feel good. Oh, there's never going to be a shortage of oranges. Look at all the oranges. Look at all the vegetables. The shelves are full. Part of the panic that exists in times of crisis is that the shelves are not full. The shelves are not full. People feel very insecure. So here is a food that cannot be stored. So I mentioned to you before that even without the moon, apparently the Jewish people could have been sustained in the desert by the cattle they had, you know, milked the cows, they had, you know, but that's not what they wanted. They wanted the security of the moon. And the security of the moon is conditional. Conditional upon Shabbos, conditional upon what each person will take. And the moon was a food that could not be preserved. No matter what you did to it, it turned rancid and wormy after its time. I think that's when he got the idea of an expiration date on the packages. has a limited time span. And that was to remind those that ate it that they also had a limited time span. But they also were not there forever. So the month was a painful reminder of reality to the Jewish people. Couldn't be stored. It had no taste except the taste you put into it, basically. And it had an expiration date to it. And it was subject to the laws of Shabbat. And that's why people said in the Torah quotes them again later in the Chumash, "V'nafshenu kotzo b'lechem achloker." We can't stand this food anymore. Because it was receiving a dash of cold water in your face every day. It was the shock of reality. So the moon, which was miraculous, was really the symbol of reality. It was really the symbol of nature, of life itself and of human existence. And that was a harsh lesson. And that's why we have throughout the 40 years in the desert complaints about the month. Because we like to have good news. We like to have compliments. We like to have optimism. Very hard for us to deal with realities. So these are ideas of why the Torah began the Parsha Vayehi with a negative statement. Because the Torah wanted us to read what is going to happen and to see that even in the midst of the greatest miracles and the splitting of the sea and the ecstasy of the song, you still have to get it. You have to understand it. You have to appreciate it. You have to see your role in following and doing. And that's an eternal lesson for us. That lesson is not restricted to Yom Suf. And it's no accident that we repeat Yom Suf every day in our prayers. And the Torah, the Gemara always compares difficult things to Kriyas Yom Suf. Kosher Zivugah Shalom, finding the proper mate is like Kriyas Yom Suf. Parnosa is like Kriyas Yom Suf. Eretz Yisrael is like Kriyas Yam Suf. Because they all take perspective. They all take to be able to see it correctly. To be aware of what is happening, to appreciate it, and to function therefore accordingly. Therefore it becomes, even with all the nuances of negativity, Shabbat Shiur, the Shabbat of song, of exaltation, and of victory. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you. There's another lecture series.
When is it gonna be uploaded?
Torah anytime. Torah anytime.
No, when?
Hope Motzei Shabbos. Hope so.
Starting in the middle of February, there'll be a lecture series on different histories of anti-Semitism.
Oh,
You can make your reservation with Nochel.